Hello and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. My name's Conley Zani and I am your host. This show is under the auspices of Rich Rayner, our town administrator, and together Rich, myself, and the entire Portsmouth This Week team are on a mission to build community. We do that by bringing you accurate and timely information on the topics that impact you. We introduce you to your neighbors, the personalities, the faces, the leaders in our community that make up the fabric of this very magical place. Now, as many of you know, school has just started here in Portsmouth. So what better guest to have today than our Superintendent of Portsmouth Public Schools, Dr. Thomas Kenworthy. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Conley.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, I feel like it's a little unfair. I feel like I know you because for many years now, if there was a school cancellation or an update on the pandemic, I got the voicemail. My phone rings at 6 a.m. and it's like, hello, this is Dr. Thomas Kenworthy. So, before we start and dive into, I know we've got a lot of really important things to talk about. I would really like to get to know you and how you came to be our superintendent. I understand you live over on the West Bay, right?
I do. We live in East Greenwich, my wife and 3 children. Great.
Well, what's been your path? Like, how'd you get into being the administrator that you are?
So, entering my 26th year in education, which is hard to believe, when I look back on things, but my career has just followed a traditional education path. It's what I went to school for. I was a high school history, social studies teacher, and did that for a number of years, and eventually moved into administrative roles. I was a building assistant principal. So I've worked at both the middle and high school level. Middle level, I was mostly focused in the Cumberland School District, and at the high school level, North Kingstown. So 2014, there was this great opportunity to be able to come to Portsmouth, and I came over as the assistant superintendent and just really fell in love right from the get-go with the district. I was able to take that role on of somehow that was all I was able to do that with the calls and the school cancellation. So that's where certainly a lot of people became familiar with me. But so in December of 2019, by January 2020, the superintendent role opened up, and I was fortunate to be selected to take over.
Right, and then they hit you with a pandemic. They're like, hey, we're not going to make it easy for you or anything, right? Let's just throw the biggest crisis our schools have seen in a long time, right?
Yep.
So, all right, well, let's start with that, with what has happened and then the reopening. So tell me your perspective.
Sure. So as you mentioned, right, January 2020, we kind of were all hearing a little bit about COVID-19, and things were ramping up and spreading. But definitely in schools in Rhode Island, it was the February break period. It was like right before and right after February break that it was like, all right, it's, something, this
you were getting
bigger,
very nervous.
Right, this is bigger than, anybody thought it was going to be. And so, it was pretty much right from the beginning a focus, for me, and we really had to shift. So that was by March of that year, we had shifted with every other, school and district pretty much across the country to full distance learning, stayed that way for the remainder of the school year. So, worked very hard with our staff to, really shift our educational, methods and focus, and make sure our students were still getting a quality educational experience. Last year, right, we were able to reopen our schools. It took, again, a lot of efforts on the part of staff and the community. But we were very fortunate in Portsmouth for the entire year last year, right from day one. We had full in-person instruction from preschool up through grade 6. Yeah. We started hybrid, right, in 7th grade, so 7th through 12, and eventually just started being able to bring more and more students back in those grade spans. And by the spring, we were fully back. Ended the school year last year. I think if we can remember back to June, we thought we had kind of
I can't
gotten
remember.
Over
It's
gotten over
hard
the
to
hump of
remember
this
2 months
thing,
ago.
and I think we were all hopeful that the beginning of the school year was going to look different. I mean, it still does. I think we're in a much better place, right? But we are starting where things are with COVID, particularly the Delta variant. It is still a focus of what we have to keep in our minds, making sure that we can keep all students and staff safe. So, although
Yes.
we've started with an indoor mask mandate, right? If you remember last year, it was a full mask mandate everywhere we went. So at least,
Yes, even on playgrounds
right, at
or
least,
yes.
students are able to have their mask off outdoors. And I think with all of the health and safety measures that we've taken, they all look, we have a lot in place to keep students and staff safe, but they all look a little bit different than they did last year. So I'm hopeful that things will just continue to improve.
From your perspective, what's the most important thing you're doing right now to keep people safe?
Making sure that we adhere to whether it's the mask mandate or anything else that we do in schools. We work closely. There's been an important partnership from the beginning of the pandemic in the state when it comes to education between the Rhode Island Department of Education and the Rhode Island Department of Health. So they do a great job working together collaboratively and working with the mainly the Rhode Island Superintendents Association, which, I obviously represent Portsmouth in that capacity. We have regular meetings, they are continually updating guidance, and for us it's just making sure that we're following, those guidance and recommendations because they are the health and safety experts.
Right. There are some really smart people thinking about this, and that is wonderful to hear. So we're 2 days in. Right? What have you
Correct,
heard? What's going on the ground? People happy?
far,
My children are happy. I
Well,
have 2 boys in high school, and they're over the moon. So
Good to hear. So far so good. Yeah, we opened officially for all students on Wednesday.
Right.
Last week we brought staff back. We had some various professional development orientation activities, and then we had some student orientations, focusing mainly on our kindergarten, grade 5, grade 9 students. Took a break for the holiday weekend and started officially on Wednesday. So things are going great. Again, it is just a wonderful community. I'm like extremely happy and grateful to be the superintendent here, and that cooperation that we have within the educational side and the community is what makes Portsmouth a special place.
I love that, and you're someone to be able to say that, given you've worked all over, and it seems like you're bringing experience from all corners of the state.
Yeah, it's great. Again, I think this is a true hidden gem, the Portsmouth School District in Rhode Island. But it's good, I think, for me to have had the experience in some other districts, be able to bring that. I actually started my teaching career at LaSalle Academy, so I have kind of a little bit of experience on that private school side, seeing how they go about doing things. And it's just been I think the path that I've been able to follow, the experiences that I've had have just enabled me to be the leader that I am today for this district.
Well, we are so lucky to have you, and you seem really tapped into how people are feeling. What would you say about the teachers in general right now? Are they coming in? Are they trepidatious? Are they excited? Are they overwhelmed? Like what are the words that rise?
Definitely excited to just be able to, I mean, everybody, I think, 90% of people would agree, right? Full in-person instruction is the best, right? And that's the goal. But
So how do we do it safely?
Right. So how do we do it safely? Exactly. So I think, on the teacher end, everybody wants to be here. They want to be able to provide full in-person instruction, but to do that, we need to make sure we can stay open and do it safely. And I have to say, last year, we did not have to close, the district down on particular days. There was, things started to ramp up a little bit on the holiday break, and we,
So what happens when we have a snowstorm this winter? Are we going virtual for that?
We have the ability
curious.
to do so. Last year, toward the end of the year, we took a little poll, right, of what the staff and families were feeling, and I think, we all understand, right, that students really love those snow days and to be able to just be off completely. Last year wasn't the year to do that because we had started a little later, right, due
Yeah.
to the reopening was extended
Right.
a little bit, give everybody
Right.
time. So we were already going till the end of June, just in our regular school calendar last year. So we had the ability to go fully virtual on snow days and have them distance learning days, and so that just made sense to do that last year. This year we had said that maybe one or two. So we'll see how the year goes,
Right.
and right now we're scheduled
See how
to
people are feeling,
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes snow days are just what
yeah.
everybody needs,
we
right?
all get it. So we should have the flexibility within our school calendar to do that, and hopefully it's not one of those winters where we're getting hit left and right with
Right.
big storms or anything.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
Well, you mentioned the polls, and I do want to thank you for doing those polls. I really have been impressed with our school district and how much they reach out to the community, the parents,
Yep.
and I have felt like I've had a voice in some things that I'm like, oh wow, they're asking me, and
Well,
that's
thank you.
really great. And I don't know if I give you credit for that but it's very nice to feel like the big issues, you're trying to get some feedback on that.
Well, it's nice to hear. I mean, it's definitely a goal of ours is to be as transparent as possible, be as open. With the decision, we have a fantastic school committee that is really committed to the work that they do, and I know one of their goals is to do that in as public and transparent a manner as possible. So anytime we have the opportunity to get feedback from the community, we definitely value that.
Yeah, so does anything come to mind of a direction you might have been heading and then you got feedback and you shifted? And maybe there isn't, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just curious.
Well, it might be a good segue too into a very important topic that I wanted to make sure we had some time to discuss today. So we have a special election coming up in Portsmouth on November 2nd, right? So we're gonna really kind of break that down as to an important ballot question that's going to relate to the schools. But this is a great example of how we took feedback from the public and shifted, because 2 years ago, I'm going to talk about some state money that is there for an incentive around these types of projects. So 2 years ago, we had spent some time and put together a really bigger, more ambitious project idea. But we got approval to go to ballot to do so. We could have had a question on the ballot last November around a much bigger set of projects, but particularly when COVID hit and some feedback that we were starting to get from the community, that number may have been a little too big and a little too ambitious for Portsmouth to take on at the time. Yeah, so we listened, we pulled back the project. We didn't have it on the ballot in a general presidential election, which is really the best time to do these things. But again, we said, it's not the right time. We need to kind of shift our focus a little bit and, take another look at things. And so
And
that's
get it
why
right.
we're get it right.
Yes.
So
yes.
we're coming back this November with what we think is a much better proposal for the community and our schools.
All right. Well, will you tell me about it and tell me what I need to be thinking about as I go
right.
to the polls?
Absolutely. So we do have some visuals here, and everything that I'm going to reference today can be found on our school department website, right, www.portsmouthschoolsri.org. And right at the top of our website, when you go there, we have a link for the facilities bond. And so anything that I talk about today is there with some great visuals and a lot of additional background information. So what I wanted to start with first, because we have some important deadlines coming up, is everything around the election itself. So this is a special election for Portsmouth. It's going to be held on November 2nd, and there'll be every possible way to vote these days, right? We've seen a lot of changes to that process over the years. So we are definitely going to have in-person opportunities in town here on November 2nd, the traditional voting methods. There will also be early voting that people can do for a few weeks prior. Right, but then there's also going to be a mail-in process that people can follow if they choose. So the first set of deadlines that's coming up that I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of is, first of all, you need to be registered to vote in Portsmouth, right, if you're a community member and you're not already, to be able to take advantage of this. So that deadline is coming up on October 3rd. So that's just the overall deadline to make sure that you are a registered voter in Portsmouth if you're not already, or you need to change voter, something related to your voting information. Maybe you've moved in town and you just haven't gotten around to changing that yet.
So get on it, right?
That's right. So that's a key deadline coming up on October 3rd. And then right after that, is going to be followed by the mail-in ballot application. So again, if you think it's going to be much easier for you to take advantage of the voting process through the mail-in ballot, you will have the ability to do so. But those applications are going to be due by October 12th. And we are just going to continue. At this point, we wanted to let everybody come back from summer, open the school year, but you're going to see just a flurry of school communications around these things. And we're going to keep it very factual. We just want people to know, the facts around why is this question going to be on the ballot on November 2nd, why we feel these are an important set of projects. And so we want to make sure first and foremost that everybody can have all the information that they need in order to take part in this election process.
All right, so what are we coming to the polls to really weigh in on?
I will, let me know if I don't do this correctly, but I will be the slide changer here. Okay,
yes,
all right.
Yes.
So again, right on our on this link on our school department website, you can find all this great information. So there are going to be 2 questions on this ballot, and I know you're probably in future shows going to have guests who are going to talk about the election itself and the ballot, but 2 questions. And we are question 1 for the school department bonds. So that's what I'm focusing on here. So we are asking the voters of Portsmouth to approve or reject a $21.4 million bond to allow the town of Portsmouth to enter into this bond in order to finance a series of school facilities improvement projects. And these are all focused on health and safety items. And I'll explain a little bit more about why that's the focus. So some things that are important for people to know, again, just keep, making sure everyone has all of the facts here. Although this is a $21.4 million bond, total cost to the town of Portsmouth is actually going to be just a little, or close to $13 million, a little over $12 million, right? Because we are going to be able to get, if the bond is approved and we're able to go forward with these projects, we are going to be able to get roughly $8.6 million back in reimbursement from the state. So that is equates to 40% of the project. So
wow.
It sounds like a great deal. And the reason why that is a possibility, it's not any sort of thing that's being offered. That isn't there for us to take advantage of. So regularly, if we have approved school construction projects with the state, we can get reimbursement for those, and it goes directly back to the town. That's the way. School projects are the only type of improvement projects that have that capability. But that's one thing for people to just keep in mind. Anytime that we're talking about capital improvement projects we're trying to do for the schools, and the reason why it's important for us to have state-approved projects that we're working on is because there's automatically a reimbursement that comes back to the town, in this case, the town of Portsmouth. So for this series of projects, there is a time-limited opportunity. We would be able to get up to 40% reimbursement, right, for these projects.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So.
All right, so a lot of money. So
lot of money.
Where is it going? And you said health and safety is the focus. So
health and safety.
So what does that mean?
So let me break down the projects a little bit here. So we have 4 schools in Portsmouth, right? So we've done a lot of work over there. The community's done a lot of work prior to me getting here of, having to make tough decisions here and there to close schools as, the population in our school community has fluctuated a little bit. So, in Portsmouth, we're dealing with 4 school buildings, the high school, the middle school, and our 2 elementary schools. And we have done a great job trying to maintain those buildings as much as possible, make sure that they are adequate learning spaces for our students. But none of our buildings are new, right? These are all, 50, 60-year-old buildings, and they need work and they need regular maintenance. So we do have a regular maintenance budget within our school operating budget. We try to take care of the little things that come up, from time to time, just like you would in your house, and just make sure that, you're keeping up in certain areas. We have a capital budget that the town gives us separately, but again, there's only so much money in any given budget season that the town can allocate for those things. So if we have a little bigger project here or there that pops up, right? But in this case, taking advantage of this one-time, time-limited state incentive, we want to do this series of health and safety focus projects. So
Yeah, I see air quality right there. I
Right
love
there,
that.
right.
I
So-
love that.
this graph, I think, again, why we wanted to create it, because it does a great job just kind of breaking down when we talk about health and safety. Again, this is one area that we can focus on for approval. So within that health and safety area, to get approval from the state, these are the main types of projects that you could focus on. So you can, this graph just shows kind of the overall percentage within this $21.4 million project of how that would break down. Right, so you've got the air quality, the ADA, making sure that we're keeping up with accessibility there for all of our facilities and our bathrooms, roof replacement, site safety, hazardous materials is asbestos removal. So again, 50 to 60-year-old buildings, that's a key thing.
We're
we
still
always
dealing
have
with
to,
that, yeah, right?
And we've done a lot of work in that area, but again, being able to take advantage of this health and safety bonus, these are the projects that would qualify.
Okay. Well, can we hear a little bit about the individual schools?
Sure.
And I'm not going to ask you to start with the high school just because that's where my kids are. So wherever you want to start,
Well,
but let's highlight.
How about we'll end there?
Okay, we'll end there. Let's highlight what's going on, and just to make it really hit home for parents.
Sure. So again, within this health and safety focus, which is where we pulled back a little bit. I started this conversation with a couple of years ago. We're trying to take advantage of this incentive program. So back in 2018, which is a long time ago for us to remember, but the voters of Rhode Island approved a $250 million statewide bond initiative, right? And back in 2018, for extra incentives for school construction projects, right? So that's when again, all communities, all districts were encouraged to take advantage of this money because it was going to go away eventually, right? And so now we're here in 2021 already. This money is going away because other communities are putting their projects forward too, right? So East Providence High School just opened the East Providence District just opened a brand new $180 million high school, right? Newport's getting ready to build a brand new school, right, for their high school. They're taking advantage of these incentives.
Come on, Portsmouth. Come on,
Right.
Portsmouth. Let's get some.
So for us, again, although we were approved to originally seek up to $65 million for these projects, again, we kind of scaled back, but did so in a manner focusing on these health and safety projects so that we could still tap into these time-limited statewide incentives. So the way we had the graph of how overall, with all the projects, right, these are going to break down, but when it comes to each of our schools. So the real big projects here, both of our elementary schools, Melville and Hathaway, would get brand new HVAC systems to improve air quality. And with the technology now and the systems, we can even get full air conditioning. So not just talking about improving airflow, which is important and everything, but for the same price, pretty much, as if we were just going to put in a new system, we can get a system with air conditioning. So when these projects are finished, both of those schools will not only have new state-of-the-art upgraded air quality systems, which we know have become so important for us through the COVID focus, but they'll also have full air conditioning in all spaces in the building. Right. And then the common theme that we'll see at all of our schools are bathroom renovations. And so, again, those are things we could chip away at here, a little at a time here and there. And they're obviously classroom instructional spaces are the most important, areas for our students, but nobody wants to go into a bathroom, right? That's tiles are falling apart, and all that. So these will be brand new, fully renovated, state-of-the-art bathrooms.
And that's across the schools,
That's across all four schools.
So I see we're hitting themes. We've got just maybe about 4 or 5 minutes left. So keep going. That's wonderful to hear.
Yep. So again, sticking with the projects that we knew could get approved for this health and safety focus to get us this additional incentive bonus. Hathaway, elevator. Hathaway is a 2-story building. It doesn't have an elevator. It is something that we've tried, we've been trying to do this for years. It's just, we haven't been able to do it within a regular budget cycle or within, there's always been other projects that need, an immediate focus.
Urgent, right.
So, and this will get Hathaway an elevator. so that staff and students can have full ADA access to both floors of that building.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the middle school, again, most of the work that we would want to focus on at the middle school if we were doing a big project would be the educational enhancements in the classroom. So with this project, we can't focus on those right now. So the middle schools, we would hit the bathrooms. And then when we get to the high school, so in addition to some bathrooms there, field house air conditioning, that has been something that we have heard from the community. Speaking of listening to the community,
right.
We've heard from the community for years. So, while in regular budget cycles, it maybe doesn't rise to the priority list as some other things, we are able to include that in this health and safety focus. It would meet the bonus threshold for us. So, phys ed classes and indoor sporting events. Anybody who has been in those buildings for those during the months of September or June, right? The condensation just really builds up in there. So it has a well-functioning HVAC system, but we would, in this case, we wouldn't be completely replacing that like we would be at the two elementaries. We'd be enhancing and adding to that and adding the air conditioning. And I do want to talk about, at the high school, one of the projects that people will see in the breakdown is renovation to Memorial Drive, and some site improvements there. That's going to accomplish some main goals for us. Widen that roadway, add accessible sidewalks on both sides, and then as we're doing that project, take advantage of adding additional parking spaces at the high school. So a few things. Why are we including that in this project? Well, it meets the health and safety threshold, so we're trying to include that in this series of projects to be able to accomplish it and get that 40% reimbursement. But it is also, if you think of the high school facility, right, you have three main ways in there. So you've got the Memorial Driveway, or Patriots Way off of 138, or Education Lane off of Sprague Ave. Well, Patriots Way and Education Lane are town roads, right? They have the town roadways, there are houses there, there are other roads in some cases that build off there. Memorial Drive is not a town road.
It's a school road.
That's on, school department property. So that's why people are going to see that in this project. And because of that, we're able to include it and take advantage of those incentives.
I love that, because as someone that drives that every day, and
Right.
I feel like I'm dodging kids, it's scary, right? And so that's interesting. I didn't realize the other two entrances or roads
Our town roads.
are town roads.
Right.
So
Which is, right, and I'm sure, the town has plans for those at some point.
Of course.
But this is our road. So
Yeah.
we are able to include it in these projects.
wow, well, that is a very appreciated, thorough overview of this. It's exciting, and basically your call to action is go to the polls and weigh in.
Yeah, and I think first, right, and what we're just going to make sure people make sure you're registered to vote, make sure you know how you're going to vote on November 2nd. So if you plan to vote by mail, there's going to be a key deadline coming up for that on October 12th.
Yeah.
And then, we would love to get everybody out and just, weigh in on this one way or another. But I think, we've made a pretty good argument for why these are important, projects for us to focus on right now.
Well, thank you so much. And anyone can visit the school's website
Absolutely.
to find this information, right? And find your personal cell phone number so they can call you and weigh in.
It might be up there if you look hard enough. But if you go there, start on that facilities bond link. Maybe
all right, we'll
take
do.
you there.
Well,
right.
Thank you for being our guest today. There are
Thank
so
you for
many things to
having me.
talk about. We're going to be ending our program with a public service announcement. We are hosting another vaccination clinic on September 17th at the high school. So the time of the clinic is from 1 to 3 p.m. as well as 4 to 7 p.m. If you'd like to sign up for a vaccine, you can go to Vaccinate RI, and the number to call if you need some help is 1-844-930-1779. Thank you again for joining us on Portsmouth This Week. We'll see you very soon.